Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Rebecca, it's nice to meet ya. So I've been kind of hitting the jackpot recently with fantasy books on Kindle Unlimited, just like reading fantasy books in general, but I read a lot of good ones lately, a lot that I haven't seen online, like on TikTok or YouTube or anything from recommendation videos or people just talking about the books they enjoyed. So I thought I would make a video giving you guys some of my recommendations of good fantasy books I've read lately. So all of these are on Kindle Unlimited, that's where I read all of them. However, I'm in Canada, so I don't know how Kindle Unlimited varies from country to country. I don't know how any of that works. So if they're not on your Kindle Unlimited, I'm so sorry, but they are on mine. But yeah, hopefully I have some recommendations that you guys haven't heard of yet, but let's get into it. So the first one is Heart of Mist by Helen Schuer. She's actually the author of the Blood and Steel, the Legends of Thesmar series, so if you've heard of that recently or you've read it, this is the same author. But this is actually an older series of her, and I'm actually in the middle of reading this. I just started it recently. However, it's really good so far, and it's pretty unique to anything I've seen before. So basically it's about this girl named Bleak, and her parents were killed when she was younger, and she was taken in by this fisherman named Bleak. And when the fisherman asked her what her name is, she said her name was Bleak, so they're both Bleak. But he takes her in and they grow up together, and then he ends up passing away as well. So she becomes an alcoholic. She's like basically homeless. She's just like the town drunk. But she also has mind reading magic. So she has a lot of people's thoughts jumping into her head all the time because she's not in control of her magic, which is a big part of the reason that she chooses to drink. And so one day there's this guy in the town who doesn't like her, and he reported her to the royals saying that she had magic. So the king's men have come to collect her from a different part of this realm. So yeah, basically the king sent all his like best commanders to come and get her, and she's so confused as to why they would make the journey from the kingdom to where she is to pick her up personally. Oh, and there's also a mist, like a toxic mist that's in the story, but I haven't gotten far enough in yet to know what any of that is about, but I'm sure it'll come up. But yeah, I believe this is a trilogy. There's 3 books out, and I think there's also a 4th mini like novella kind of thing that is also out. I'm really excited to get further into this and see how I like it because I'm really enjoying it so far. The next series is called The Flame Cursed Fae, and this has 3 books in it as well. It's a trilogy, and the first book is called Of Blades and Wings. Now, I read this book very recently. I was sick and in bed, so I read the first book and half of the second book in one day, and then the next day I finished the other half of the second book and the third book. So I demolished this. They're pretty short. The first 2 books are 300 pages, and I believe the third book is 400 pages. So this book is about a girl called Maddie, and she has these like blackouts all the time. She is a princess of the ice realm along with her sister, and their parents are like ashamed of her and keep her hidden because she doesn't have the stereotypical ice realm magic. So they pretend Maddie is just like a favored maid of her sister, and they act like the sister is the only heir, the only princess. They get a letter saying that the princess of the ice realm has been selected for Valkyrie training. So obviously her sister is the one they're all thinking because she's the only known princess to the entire realm and surrounding realms. But when the current remaining Valkyries show up to get her sister, they realize that it's actually Maddie they're talking about and that they've been keeping her hidden. So she shows up to this training. She's kind of like the underdog, and everybody's like picking on her, except for one of the remaining Valkyrie named Kane, who has lost his wings and is kind of disliked by all the other ones. But yeah, I love this series. I thought it was super cute, super fun, super easy to read. This is not one of those series that has like the most in-depth world building and super like high fantasy vibes, but it is a really good book to just like have an easy read and get that fantasy feel without having to like hurt your brain to understand it. The next one is the Broken Prophecy series, and before I say anything else, this series is uncompleted. There are 2 books out so far. I believe it's supposed to be a trilogy, but I'm not sure. It's by Anna Applegate and Helen D'Amico, and this is a bachelor style book, but instead of the typical man having all of these girls as his bachelorette, she is the one with all the men competing for her. So she's a princess of the kingdom and her father has fallen sick. So he's enacted these trials to try and find her a well-suited husband. But the princess actually doesn't have any powers, so they're trying to find someone trustworthy. Her best friend ends up entering the trials to try and help her because he already knows that she's powerless and he wouldn't do anything to hurt her with that information. But of course we have our shadow wielder who enters the competition. His name is Cade and he's super cool. He's very strong and she's like, where did this man come from? How does he have all these powers? But yeah, so you essentially just get to watch these trials and then there's lots of twists and turns from there. Now, this next one will not come as a surprise if you have seen any of my content ever before, but the next series is Lady of Darkness by Melissa Rorick. This is one of my favorite fantasy series ever to exist. It is so good. It's so perfect. It has everything you could ever want. 5 books long, and I believe it has 2 novellas. It is about this assassin named Scarlet, and she is raised with her 2 sisters, who aren't actually her sisters, by this assassin lord in the human realm. And then one night they end up getting in a fight. You don't know what happens, but she ends up moving out to go live with some royals in the town. And so while she's there, she ends up meeting the king's guard of this like special forces team he has. And Scarlet's looking at him and she's like, he's stronger than anyone I've ever seen. Like, he has an amazing fighting style. I want to ask this guy to train me. So she goes up to him. She's like, hey, I need you to train me. Like, I've never seen someone who's almost as good at fighting as I am. And so that's how it starts out. I can't tell you any more without spoiling, but oh my gosh, when I tell you this fantasy series has everything in the world you could ever want. Like, there's this huge cast of characters, there's a found family, there's multiple point of views, there's dragons, there's different magic types, there's fated mates, there's everything. This series made me obsessed with Melissa Rorick. Like, I am so in love with this series. If you ever take one recommendation from me to give a shot, let it be this one. Okay, now this series is a little more popular than the previous ones, but I feel like it doesn't get half the amount of hype that it deserves. And that is the Kindred's Curse series, Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. Oh my goodness! This was the first book that I read this year, and it set my standards for the year so insanely high. The first 3 books are out. I don't believe the 4th one has come out yet, although I think it was supposed to come out, but I don't know what's happened because I haven't seen anybody talk about it. It says that it's not expected to come out until July 2026. That's over a year away. Anyways, but y'all, these books are so incredibly good. The slow burn in this, the enemies to lovers, it is chef's kiss. When I tell you guys, I was reading this and I was like, oh my goodness, like, I never thought I was gonna feel this way starting a series again. Like, it was just one of those things where you start reading a really good fantasy series and you're like, yes. Now, since this one is a little more popular, I do see a lot of discourse about this on TikTok, and a lot of people do not like our main character DM. So if you've seen anything about this book and you haven't read it because of any of that, please ignore it and give it a try. I promise you, it's really not that bad. I didn't find her annoying at all. While yes, a few of her choices were like, okay, why are you doing that? But like, it's really not that serious. I don't know why she gets so much hate. Like, the series is so good. The male main character, Luther, y'all, even if she was the most annoying MMC ever, he himself is worth reading the series for. DM's a healer and her mom is also a healer. That's where she learned from. And her mom is service to go check on the king because the king is sick. When her mother magically disappears out of thin air someday, DM ends up going with a different older healer to go visit the king. She ends up meeting this man Luther. There's lots of secrets and mystery and intrigue, and it's so good. Okay, the last book is called A Stark View by Alexis Patton. There are currently 2 books out in this series. I believe there's another one expected to come out either this year or next year. I'm not sure how many are supposed to be in the series, but I feel like it's supposed to be a trilogy. Anyways, I thought this book was super unique. It was super cool. It's about this girl named Kalani, and she lives in this underground city because nobody is allowed to live up on the earth besides the rich, of course. There's a domed town up on the surface of the earth where all the rich people, like the mayor of the city, live, and everybody else lives down under the ground. So one day Kalani is doing something silly. She ends up getting sent to jail in the underground prison. She's like, okay, I'm screwed. And when she gets down to the prison, she meets this guard named Takashi. Y'all, I love that man. She has like a little thing going on with the guard. He trains her sometimes. She works in the library where she meets this old lady. Seems to come off as a bit of a crazy old lady. But yeah, she makes a nice group of friends. She finds her way around the prison and develops a little steamy love with the guard. But yeah, the first 2 books of the series were super good. I really like the premise, I really like how the story is developing, and I'm really excited to see where it leads. But yeah, those are all of my fantasy recommendations on Kindle Unlimited. Hopefully they're on Kindle Unlimited for you guys too, I'm really hoping. But if not, you should still check all of these books out because they're super good. But yeah, hopefully this helps you out. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!